very good. Now, what you want to know, you're going to operate on this, you want to know, are you going to make this patient better? And here's the ideal candidate. This is the one that you want to build your reputation on. A young patient, a small bridge, it was due to trauma, it was recent onset, less than a year, and it's a central or linear bridge. These are the ones that you operate on and you'll get good success consistently. You want to stay away from these and maybe look for other alternatives. If it's an older patient, a large bridge, if it's due to infection and irradiation, not due to trauma, so you have different, your remaining physis outside the bridge is kind of sick. If it's a peripheral bridge, it's easy to do, but you might as well try to find something else because they don't really do very well. Now, let's look at some technical points. In the central bridge, remember you need a large window, a large metaphyseal window. And remember that this physis now has become vertical instead of horizontal. So you've got to get a big bridge, and you have to look for the physis in the vertical plane, not the horizontal plane. Here's a peripheral bridge. See how easy it is to get to? We've taken the bridge out. You can see the metaphysis, you can see the epiphysis, and you see the remaining physis that's growing if you're taking the bridge out. It's a no-brainer. It's easy to do, but they don't do well. If you have a linear bridge, they're a little bit harder. You may have to make a tunnel, osseous tunnel from anterior to posterior, or a very large metaphyseal window so that you can follow that bridge all the way from anterior to posterior. You can be able to follow it cortex to cortex. Now, the other thing is you've got to hit that bridge, you've got to hit the physis perpendicular. The location of this bridge was here. You can see that it was growing in the back. It must be, but when you hit, you must be able to get perpendicular to the physis so that you can see the whole physis after you resect the bridge. You'll be able to see. It would certainly be easier with this bridge to go anterior because you don't have any vital structures in the distal thigh. But you're going to be hitting it obliquely, and it's going to be very difficult to see that anterior portion of the area that you resected. So you may have to go back to the back, and it's a little bit more tricky to go back there because you've got a lot of vital structures that you have to retract and get out. But you are able to hit it in a little bit more perpendicular manner. It's okay. So you need to be close to perpendicular to the physis. The other thing that you want to do is that when you see it, you want to leave a little bit of the physis sticking out in profile. Because if it's not there, the bridge can form around that. It doesn't have any barrier. So if you leave that little piece of physis sticking out, it will kind of serve as a barrier for new formation of new bridges. Now, here's a peripheral bridge. You can see it's growing and getting a severe angulation. This is one that we went, and you can see, you go and what you take out is all of the sclerotic bone. That's the bridge. And that's the nice thing, it makes it a little bit easier about resecting, is that the bridge is cortical bone. That's what you want to take out. So this isn't complete yet. There's still some sclerotic bone. Going a little bit deeper, now we're getting into the gray area of the physis. You can see the gray physis is now visible. And to the point now, we've got the physis completely freed up, sticking out in a little bit of profile, and you've got, that's going to decrease the ability of a new bridge forming across this as you put your interpositional material. And your interposition. Right now, one of the popular ones is cranioplast. And here, when you do that, you also want to put markers in there to see if it's starting to grow, because you don't always have the Harris-Park growth rest lines to see if it's growing. So here's your cranioplast spacer, and you have to anchor it because it can actually be grabbed by the metaphyseal bone and be drawn up into the metaphysis. And we put a metal marker for growth. You use a dental mirror to visualize the physeal borders, to see it. And you want to make sure that you take out all of the sclerotic bone. That's the bridge. You need to take that out until you have nothing but physis and cancellous bone. Now, what about the interpositional material? Well, people used fat. People have used cranioplast, and cranioplast is methyl methacrylate without the barium. Because if you put barium in it, it gets hot. That's why they don't use that on the skull. If you put, it doesn't make so much difference in the total joint, but you don't want to have the barium in it, which makes it very radiolucent, though. That's the only problem. And silastic was used, but we don't use this anymore because of the problems associated with silastic toxicity. Now, here's an illustrative case. This is a patient that was in a motor vehicle accident, was actually riding on the beach and was hit by a dune buggy or a motorcycle kind of device and had a very typical longitudinal bridge. And we took out the osseous. You can see the osseous bridge where it was. This is a 1 year post-op. At this time I was using silastic, and you can see 4 months post-resection. You see the silastic spacer that's in there. That silastic spacer is going to be captured by the bone in the metaphysis and drawn away from the physis. So you see, now we know that it's growing because now our Harris-Park growth arrest lines are growing symmetrically. In 3 years post-injury, despite the fact that the silastic is drawn up into the distal femur, it has continued to grow. That's what it means it's a good success. Here's another one. Sometimes maybe resection isn't the only way to remove this bridge or get it going again. This is a patient that had a poorly defined bridge. This patient had a Salter-Harris one fracture of the distal physis about 5 years previously and did well, and then started to develop a bridge here. But it was a poorly defined bridge. And he's getting close to his termination of his growth. So you see a physeal bridge, and you got angular and shortening. So he's getting closer to the end of his growth. So our solution here was physeal distraction. What you can do, you can put a device on that and start to put tension forces on it and distract it. You put this on there, and then you lengthen that side lengthening device until you get it corrected. And I got it corrected, and took the hardware out, and my question was this going to grow? And the guy disappeared. The kid disappeared. And then he came back later, 2 years later, and you can see now he has symmetrical migration of the Harris-Park growth arrest lines and got normal growth, just simply by breaking the physeal plate, the physeal bar. Finally, what happens if it recurs? Can you do it again? Well, if you meet the criteria, for resection and it recurs, you can do it again. Here's a good example. This is a 3-year-old that had a severe injury to the distal radius at the age of 18 months. Showed up at the age of 3 years. This was a central bridge. We went ahead and resected it, and we anchored the silastic in the physis. And this patient actually had to have 3 resections over a period of 8 years. We did have to do an epiphysodesis of the distal ulna, but we were able to maintain the angulation and get recurrence of growth. They grow for about 1.5 years, 2 years, and then you get another bridge, and we do it. So we did it 3 times, and we were able to, going to be a little bit short, but it's not got the angular deformity. So you can resect this as one when you compare it with the opposite side, normal side. So the radial ulnar relationships were reestablished or maintained. So what have we learned? I hope you learned this thing. One, to have good results, you've got to know the physeal anatomy. You've got to go back to the basic histology that you studied in your first or second year of medical school. You've got to understand the different physeal arrest patterns and the pathology of that bridge. You've got to know which cases you want to operate on to build a reputation and which ones you want to avoid. And you need to have a method of doing a preoperative plan. And you need to know the technical aspects of the resection procedures. And also, if you don't think it's one that you can resect, maybe it's a candidate for some of the alternatives, such as physeal distraction. And what if it recurs? Can you do it again? That's the things that you need to know. So, well, thank you, and I hope that we've given you some insight on what to do if you get a fascial arrest. Thank you very much.
Questions on this?
How many people have done these? How many people have done? What's your success rate? All 100%?
No, not 100%. I think it depends a lot on the choice. It depends upon a lot on how you choose the bar. So sometimes if you choose good bars, they are almost 100% successful. But if you choose, like you're taking a risk because the child is very small, and even though you know that the bar is not suitable, but still you do it, then it's dicey. But most of the time you will know that it will not succeed even when you're doing the surgery, because you can see that the bar is not suitable.
Yeah, I learned that lesson early. You know, first it came out, we said this operation, if you take the bridge out, we thought, boy, this is going to cure it. But like I say, there's nothing more humbling than long-term results. And it took me about 6 or 7 years before I realized which ones worked and which didn't.
Thank you. Any other question?
Rich, what's your experience?
Yeah, I think everything you said was right on, Kay. My experiences have to do with how well selected how well you select the bar. If it's related to an infection or some other more generalized problem with the physis, I haven't had much success. If it's a very specific fracture pattern and it's less than 30%, and the child's young enough, I think it's been successful. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you. One announcement. At the end of the session, all of you please stay here, be seated, because the inauguration is going to happen here. So you already got the special seats to the inauguration. The faculty also to stay on here. And you'll have to submit your evaluation forms to get your certificates. And certificates will be given outside in exchange for your evaluation form. Rita, for her lecture on obstetric brachial plexus palsy, surgical management and reconstruction.
And a topic such as this, you all must be thinking, oh, I wish the tea break was now. But anyway, as a proof that you all had good tea and you all are refreshed, there are two sounds that I will appreciate: my own voice and questions. No sounds of photographs clicking away, no sounds of mobiles buzzing, please. Thank you. Let's start, because this is a topic not very often taught to most of us. We all know that obstetrical brachial plexus injuries occur during the passage of the fetus through the birth canal, and a hyperflexion of the neck stretches, either breaks or even avulses the roots at times. And let's see what to do with each of them. Well, traditionally we've all been taught that it's either C5-6 upper plexus or it's a lower plexus, C8-T1. Well, let me tell you, we have yet to see in the last 12 years more than 3 true C8-T1 lesions. So what is the real classification and what is the gold standard that you all need to follow and will always be asked in exams? Please remember, it's the Narakas classification. Group 1 is C5-6, paralysis of the shoulder and the biceps. Group 2 is C5 to C7, paralysis of the shoulder, biceps, triceps and forearm extensors. Group 3 is C5 to T1, a complete paralysis of the lower limb. And the group 4 is actually just a subset of group 3. It's the same as group 3 but with a Horner syndrome. So we look at clinically what to do with each of them. Generally, we've always been taught that there's either a spontaneous recovery which is near full and nothing needs to be done, but the truth is somewhere in between. Majority of the palsies recover somewhere here partially and with a lot of sequelae and the things, and we'll see what to do with each of them. Why do sequelae occur? Because sometimes the recovery plateaus off after the initial good phase, and that's when you need to know where to intervene. If there's no recovery, the decision is fairly obvious. So there is nothing really here that we need to debate about. In a Horner syndrome and a clavicular fracture, please remember, in a young child, the prognosis is not necessarily as bad as it would be in a